Hey, howdy, hey. All right, we're going to be doing a little bit of art today. Not too much, but we're going to go for as long as I can for this afternoon. Just a second, waiting for the stream to see if it has all the audio working. All right, it is indeed working. Okay, before we dive into this though, there's one quick little thing I need to double check. Okay, got that squared away. Just something that was bugging me about how the UI was working there. You know, there's something that I've been wondering for a while. And it kind of got sparked off of a guy that I met in the streaming world who was quite good with engaging his audience. But there was something odd about him in many ways. Well, it wasn't just something. There's many things that kind of contributed to this oddness. But there was one thing that really stood out to me. It was being blind to how people perceive you. It has made me wonder at times, well, not at times, many times, how people perceive these streams, how people perceive me. Now, you shouldn't be obsessed with with being seen by folks. Usually, if you try and pursue that, you're going to learn something about yourself that you probably didn't want to learn, and something that could rock your world in a bad way. But it's still good to have a knowledge of how people see you, so that way you're less likely to maybe make mistakes. Well, this guy had a behavior that people thought down deep, like, oh, this is ridiculous. Why is he doing this? Doesn't he realize how stupid this looks? And he had no idea whatsoever. No idea. And it does raise that question of, if someone had gone up and told him, would he have even acknowledged it? Or would he try and argue that, oh, well, you're just one of the people that are trying to grift off of him? Which, by the way, was his argument. If someone has a very legitimate concern, and they can give you verbatim what it is that troubles them, it would be foolish to ignore that. It'd be even more foolish to turn on that person for their honesty. Being able to look in the mirror is not easy. Some people do it far better than others. Some of us think we're doing it better than we actually are. In the end, time will tell, and we may find ourselves eventually at a place where people abandon us, and we find ourselves in a very quiet corner, screaming into the void. No, I'm not trying to refer to right now. Yes, there's no one in the chat. I just began. And our streams do ebb and flow. This is not talking about myself in the sense of that, oh, we're screaming into the void. This is for whoever ends up watching this later on. And also, this is a way for me to ramble on something prior to a whole bunch of people coming here, or hearing this later on. And it gives me that chance to kind of ponder the matter before that time, where I really bring out the full sort of concept. But this is something that I keep seeing. I keep seeing people. I keep seeing myself. I keep seeing streams that have been going on forever and streams that are just getting started. This mentality of being so unaware of how people see you, and then getting so defensive that you turn on people that are trying to be just helpful and honest. Some people make it very difficult for you to come up and offer correction. Some people hate you for it, and they make it very plain. What sort of person will you be? What sort of person will I be? I like to think that I'm open to stuff. I keep asking people questions, and sometimes I'll get clear answers. Sometimes I'll just get kind of ho-hums. I think maybe because people don't know quite how to respond. That's not a problem. If you don't know how to respond, sometimes speaking up can make things worse. But it is important that if you see somebody that is going off the beaten trail, to try and assist, because you never know. They probably have no idea that they are so far removed from where they should be. I feel like there's another color that's missing. Maybe it is this color right here. I kind of like this one right here. Just add another color to the collection. And, you know, let's grab this one, two, oh, wait a minute. From display. There we go. Put this one over here. Along with, maybe it's the same one. Yeah, it's basically the same one. No need to even get too much here. Okay, let's just blend those together. That way it adds a little bit of variety. I know, not much, but something. But anyway, if you see somebody offering correction, is your instinct to lash out? I've seen this come into play in work environments, in commissions. I've seen it come about in friend circles. It's happened enough to where I'm seeing a pattern that the people who need correction the most will lash out the most. And they start to think that somehow you're evil for offering correction, not realizing you're just trying to do it because you care. But it's hard for them to see that. To them, all they see is somebody who is kind of there to discourage them. And so thus, they start to see you as an opponent, rather than as someone who actually cares. I don't know how to break through to people like that. I don't know if they can be. And I used to not think that way. I used to think that everybody could be reasoned with in one way, shape, or form. I since have learned otherwise. Some people are... they're adamantly opposed to any correction whatsoever. And some people will view you as their worst possible enemy if you do offer correction. So let's say, for example, that you see somebody who is standing on the edge of a cliff. They're about ready to jump into the abyss. You come up and you say, "Hey, that's dangerous. Pull back." And they're like, "You can't tell me what to do." And then you're like, "Well, okay, well, this is going to be for your own good." You go up, pop them upside the head, and drag them away. And people are like, what was that all for? You're so cruel. And you're like, there's no other way I was going to get through to them. Someone had to knock some sense into them. People are going to judge you. People are going to hate you. And even people that are just observing are going to say, well, they're going to side with the person that they see as being oppressed. Even if you're in the right. Even if you offered good, valuable wisdom. Because they don't understand. Let's make this actually even more darker for you. Let's make it a high contrast. I'm trying a different technique than what I did on Yukon beforehand, because now I think I have the concept figured out, like how to do this fire. And so I'm going to try and shade it first, and then I'll texturize it later on. You know somebody cares when they say the truth and they don't care about, well, correction, they do care, but they're not going to stop because your feelings get hurt. Now, I've had to do that a couple of times in my life. I've had to come up and tell somebody a truth that they did not want to hear. Now, to them, they may say that I came up and just was trying to cause chaos, and I can understand that argument. To them, they probably had no idea. All they saw was somebody offering correction. And to them, that says, well, it doesn't sound like wisdom to them. One of them that I had to speak to argued that it was not my place. It was above my pay grade, so to speak. I didn't have a stake in it, so to speak. I wasn't saying it to have a stake in the matter. I was saying it because I saw something that was hurting other people, and I was trying to help them. And in doing so, the person just couldn't take it. You know the person that cares when they try not to get vengeance, but they continue to try and reach out. But what happens when you're cut off? What happens when somebody comes up and says, nope, that's it, no more, I never want to hear from you again? Well, then you just lost that opportunity to try and help them. But he can't try and hold on with a death grip, so to speak. You can't expect to win them over by good intentions if they have chosen their path. You have to be willing to let them go. If they correct, then yeah, welcome them back. Encourage them along the way. But don't be in denial, and don't, don't set yourself up to be subservient to them. Stand your ground. Don't cave to what they say, and also don't be a bully. That's a tough balance, and most people will never figure that out. And some of us have ideas about how it should pan out, and then it never actually happens the way that we kind of expect or are taught or have observed in the past. Kind of funny how that happens. All right, I need to pause for a moment. Too much gunk in my throat. Greetings there, Half Pine Forge. Been a while. Indeed. How have you been? This is one of our rare daytime streams. They used to be far more common in the past. Now they're about once a month, maybe twice a month, depending on, what the schedules are like. Been in the process of trying to get some, what I think are some neat projects underway. One of them was Pharaoh and the Smith. Finally got that published on the website. Now I'm on to the next project of getting Milo figured out, along with another one, which is probably going to be announced a little bit sooner than I was expecting. We will see. We will see. Sometimes I get really hopeful, like, oh, we're almost there with a project, and then nope, surprise, surprise, something comes along and thwarts that effort. But sometimes I'll still mention, like, hey, getting close to something, and I usually get the stark realization that, oh, no, you jumped the gun on that one. So, who knows? I'm busy, as always. Been streaming my ass off to get into the Creators Program. Well, hopefully it goes well. I know some folks have gotten into the Creators Program, and it's caused them some problems. Some people thrive off of it. Maybe you'll be one of those people. Some other folks have had some problems with it. But I will not speak to their experiences. That is for them to talk about, and not for me to try and, reiterate it, because I probably won't do it any sort of justice. But if you have the right mindset, then you will be in the clear and probably have some good opportunities to thrive. I remember when I first got into the, what was it called? When you become an affiliate with Twitch. I remember it was a pretty big moment for me, and it happened right away, which is what made it kind of more funny that it kind of happened. That was because of all the shout-outs that I got, but then it very quickly tumbled off a cliff. It went from being like super exciting to see, and then it lost its interest very quickly because so many problems started to ensue right after that. But it was nice to actually get to see the revenue that came in, which initially was much higher. Now I make about, I did make about like $200, I think, for the first year. And then the second year, it was half that. And then the third year, it was not even 40. So it was quite the big shift. And I got to kind of be on the high and the low of that spectrum. Streaming is a very finicky sort of industry. And sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't. I'm one of those people that's like on the in-between. I've had success, and I've also not had success. And I've been fine with both. Well, I know mutual friends of ours seem to have problems with it when they started requiring ad reads. Yes, indeed. But they have ad reads for Rumble, so I don't know why it would be a problem. I don't have any problems doing ad reads for stuff I believe in. Even my audience cheers me on and tells me to do ad reads. Well, in that sense, you're probably going to do well then, and I hope it goes well. I know that for me, like if I was to do ad reads, the people that I did have part of the community probably would not have liked it. And not to mention, I'm big anti-ads, period. I worked in advertisement for a while, and I saw all the scam stuff that they would do with it. So I'm very prejudiced against it. And I completely admit it. I am very prejudiced against all ads, period. But a lot of people actually do get a lot of good information from it. Some people rely upon ads to stay up to date about new things that are coming out, trends, movies. I just was never one of those people. As long as it's a product you believe in, well, that's makes it a lot easier. We are at an interesting point, though, where the industry is probably going to shift hard with advertisements. We'll see, but I kind of have a sneaking suspicion the world of advertising is about to get gutted because of some of the realization these companies have been getting about overseas problems of like the bot farms, whatnot. What sort of ad reads are you kind of looking for? I have 2 rules on my channel that I repeat every time I do a read so everyone knows. 1, never endorse something I have no knowledge of. And 2, I never endorse something I don't believe in. So thus raises the question, what sort of things are you promoting? What sort of stuff stands out to you as like, oh yeah, I really want to be able to share this sort of information? And my audience knows that. I think that's why they don't mind do ad reads for the Rumble app, Rumble Premium, and Pickaxe. Ah, very nice. Well, in that sense, I think that maybe you'll probably have a lot more success with the creator program then, because you have a much stronger opinion on that, and so thus you will be preferred to have that sort of stuff out there. Hopefully, it pans out well. One of the biggest challenges is trying to get people to actually buy the product. So typically with ads, you have to, it's based upon how many people click on something, and then that can change everything. For me, for example, there was one person that put out, well, I've gotten a couple of different offers over the years. One of them was trying to get me to do some ad reads for upcoming games, and it was some of the generic stuff, but I actually started looking into it to see what the limits were. And it required me to not only do the ad reads, it required a certain percentage of people to actually buy it to make the money. So it wanted initially to give like a $10 fee, but then based upon how many purchases happened, then it could increase up to $5,000 or $10,000. But people had to actually buy it. And I knew the people that were in my audience were never going to buy it. I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that it was not going to happen. Which is, again, perfectly fine. I'm not a big fan of ads anyway. So for me, it's like, hey, no skin off my nose to skip out on this stuff. Well, I hope you find success with it. I don't promote anything else on the list because I never tried any of it. My goal is to grow big enough to get sponsors by companies I like. For example, the dozen or so companies that make my tools and supplies in my shop. Indeed. Indeed. That could be helpful. I kind of wish that I could get promoted from Clip Paint for some of the streams I've done, because I've been a big fan of their software. Problem is that I'm just not big enough to try and make that happen, and so that would be kind of pointless for me to pursue. in that sense, I'll stay focused on trying to make projects rather than that. But that's because I'm on the creator side of things, so where I want to have like a physical product, so to speak, of something like this painting right here. I want to have this be the product that I'm putting out there. It's a gamble, and I'm not saying that I'm necessarily a financial expert on this matter. It's one of the reasons why I'm not trying to, get in on the program. Just because I know that even if I did get into it, I would mismanage it so quickly. It wouldn't turn out very well for me. But besides that, have you been working on any other projects in particular? Kind of like how that arm turned out there. Seems to have a bit of that look of motion. Hopefully I can duplicate that across this artwork. I only support the practice of using ads because I know there is no viable alternative. These platforms have to get income somehow, and subscriptions aren't reliable enough. 'Tis true. I've been trying to figure out an avenue solution for stuff like that. I think I have an idea. I'm not going to talk about it necessarily until I get like closer to being able to figure it out. But I'm so anti-ads that I'm like, I will try any other option. Well, not any other option. I'll try many other options to try and find something that's more honorable for me, because I know that my industry has done a lot of damage to our culture through advertisements, including the actual robbery of customers, which is why I got out of advertising, because somebody was actually doing that. Somebody was changing their logos because they had so many angry customers and they wanted to scam people that were of lower classes in order to, because they knew they wouldn't be able to get sued by them as much. I was like, oh my goodness, this is bad. Messed up company. Which I'm actually glad that I don't do advertisements anymore. I like the making of ads. There's a couple of items I would love to advertise, though. Ones that I actually think are good that people don't know of enough. But I don't know when or where that will actually take place, or if it will ever take place. But there are a couple of products I'm like, oh yeah, this needs to be out there. I just can't. I would have to be way bigger for that to happen, though. Maybe you'll reach that one day, and people will start to come to you for all sorts of neat product lines. And if you get that reputation of being somebody where you promote stuff that's trustworthy, oh, that will stand out so much. Because there's a lot of people, they'll advertise stuff on their platform, and I'm like, I don't know if you realize how bad that product is. There are some out there. It's like, how do people not see how bad this product is? One of those was what was that? It was like a supplement. I'm like, this does not look very healthy. This looks like a scam. And lo and behold, they stopped advertising months later because it turned out that, yeah, people were kind of catching on and it was messed up. Or like the Temu ads. Oh my goodness, Temu ads were awful the last couple of years. Thankfully, we seem to be on the other side of all that Temu nonsense. Expanding my store by a couple of items. Just added a bunch of fun merch stickers. Thinking about, let's see here. Thinking about remodeling my website. Just like any other industry, there are honorable and dishonorable business practices. I think my 2 golden rules keep things honest. The worst it'll ever get for me is people might get bored. Yeah, that's understandable. Well, I had an opportunity to get sponsored by a really small company that's cranking a ton of money into advertising. I tried the product and it was awful, absolutely atrocious. Yeah, unfortunately, that's I would be very curious to know what that company was, because there's some out there that they do some there's some really sketchy business practices to try and trick people into getting their product. Most of them come from overseas. They'll pretend like they're an American company, for example, and then they will dump a bunch of trash into your community. One of those happened a couple years back. I almost thought about getting a product, and then I looked into it and found out that people were complaining that it was awful, that there was chemicals that were attached to it that were causing all sorts of problems for like rashes or whatnot. So I avoided it. But a lot of other people did not, and so they paid the price, physically paid the price. W Energy, their drink mix made me sick. I get concerned about those energy drinks. I use water, sophisticated, or water with lemon, like actual lemon juice. The reason why? I had a friend who was really big into energy drinks. He had them all the time. After a couple of months, about 2 years, he then came back. I then met him, and he was very sober in his face. He was like, something happened. Found out he had a chronic illness, and the doctor traced it back to his energy drinks. He got too much sugar in his body. He went from being super athletic to being a frail man. To my knowledge, he has not recovered. I haven't heard from him in many years. But the last I saw of him, he was a shell of the man I once knew. It was very sad to see, because, like I said, he was super athletic. He was super capable. He was smart. He had the world at his fingertips. His future was robbed by an energy drink. I never would have known that if it had not been for him. Since then, I've heard about many other people who have experienced something very similar. By the way, that drink that he had, two different ones that he would swap between. Monster Energy and Red Bull. I had no idea that could happen to somebody until it happened to him. That's how it goes, isn't it? Many times we'll have a life experience and that will get shaped by people that we know. Because of that, I became very paranoid whenever I saw things for energy drinks. Because I'm like, ooh, the flashbacks of my friend in his frail state. I drink water, but first thing in the morning, I drink a lot of pop, but I at least start my day with water. Indeed, that's a good thing. I know somebody who lost a massive amount of weight when they changed away from soda. And man, it was hard for me to change away from soda. Oh, it was hard. It took me 2 years of slowly changing it, but I had to. Not because I don't like soda, not because I think it's like horrible, but because I actually have like a possible chance of diabetes in later years. So I want to try and remove as much sugar as possible out of concern for my own future. So I realized, oh, it runs in the family. Gotta be careful. Hey, greetings there, Wolfie. Those energy drinks are no good. Your background music makes me feel like I have Red Dead Redemption on, and I set the controller down. You know, that's exactly where this came from. By the way, this is Stream Radio that you're listening to. This is our redeem system for cross-platform stuff, because I got sick and tired of Stream Elements never working. Because how else can I be able to do something like this?
Hello there.
I had so many problems with that. I just got fed up and was like, fine, we're doing our own redeem system. So it's all tied through the website. And I've not had a problem with it since I implemented it over a year ago. Took me probably a good solid 200 hours to make. But the amount of headache it saved me, oh, it's been huge. I got so fed up with Stream Elements. I guess I nailed that reference. Yep, indeed. Actually, this whole image right here was inspired off of Red Dead roleplay that would take place. This is based upon the story that came out from that, of which that story will be coming out sometime in the near future. You will see that there are a couple of advertisements that are happening, because, you know, we have advertisements. You were mentioning about the things you advertise or would advertise. This is what I advertise. This is what I advertise. Things that I've been working on. Of which we have things like Stream Radio. But there's some other things too. One is an up-and-coming story that is going to be about the adventures of Milo. This one is in the works. It is almost at like the finished first stage of this production, the writing of this, and then it goes into edits. Another thing that has been out is this story, Pharaoh and the Smith. You can find this on the Castercraft website. But these are the sorts of things you will see advertised over on the left hand of the screen. So while I'm not advertising other products, I do things like that. I also got to finally get the sticker stuff figured out. I have the stickers here good to go, but I need to actually put it on like a way for people to actually redeem that. I have not figured that part out yet. I'm saving up for a new laptop so I can run Rumblebot. Indeed. Hope that goes well. Don't get me wrong, I advertise for myself as often as I can. I actually added a timer extension to my browser to help remind me to mention my website multiple times a stream. I probably need to do something like that. I'm too random to kind of do that sort of stuff. I kind of think of it at the moment. So I'm like, hey, you know, I want to mention about the Castercraft website, and I'll mention, I try and do it like twice a stream, but I don't have like a timer for it. I probably should. That would make things a little bit more, maybe a little bit a little bit nicer. Maybe. We'll see. I do need to update some other things, though. Update the way that some of these streams kind of run. That's why I needed the timer. Plus, it has a stopwatch, so I can hit the laptop button whenever something happens. I want to clip out later. That's a good point. I used to have clips that I would put out every now and again. The interactions I got from my clips in particular, I'm too dry of a streamer, you could say. I also have too many like deep subjects that take forever in a day, so trying to clip stuff really hasn't been very beneficial to me. But we used to do that during like the roleplay live streams, and some of them turned out pretty funny. Kind of miss those roleplay days. There's a lot of very comical things that were taking place. By the way, later on this next week, I'm going to be having some temporary changes to these streams. I'm going to be doing stuff in a different setting because I have obligations I have to try and do. And so thus the streams are going to be experimenting. I'm going to take this opportunity while my schedule's all kind of thrown to pieces to try a new setup. And so I hope to be able to showcase that probably on Monday. We will see. But we'll be doing probably a early evening stream for that. And that's going to be the case for the next couple of days. And then we might do a hard shift for the following week into that new format. We'll see. I made that sleeve a little short, or actually that might actually work out. These sleeves were not designed to be like perfectly fitted to the soldiers, so that actually might pan out well. That shows a little bit of his possible history that people can infer from it. Not like anyone's going to be like looking for a whole lot of Easter eggs on this thing. I act like this is going to be in like some museum or whatnot. Yeah, this isn't going anywhere. It's just going to be on the Discord, and people will be able to see things in it and infer things, but it's not going to be a large group of people are going to be able to figure that out, in my opinion. Not until the book finally comes out. Which, if people are interested in that book, that will be hopefully out sometime in the spring, if the current rate kind of holds. So we will see. I don't know like what sort of process to go through putting it out there, because I tried putting stuff onto the website, and the amount of interaction they got was next to none, which is understandable. It's the only story out there. It's my first one. That's to be completely expected. But I may have to change things up for the next story, especially since it's a much more complex story. little bit of a reflection in this. I mean, it's just a few pixels across, but by doing this, hopefully it infers that this thing does have a type of reflection. So to make this happen, it has to have a bright outer edge, and then a very early dark edge, and then we have a dark center. I've seen some different techniques for this. I am not very good at doing metallic surfaces like this, especially in Flame. Especially with this small distance here. Now I can start adding more dark colors to that. Maybe add some mid-tones. I've learned a lot doing this painting from start to finish. This is the first time I've done something this complex. Everything else has been, well, far less so. And there's some moments where I think, hey, I've found some good success, and other times where I look at it and I cringe because I realize that yes, my skills are improving, but I'm also so far away from where I kind of want to be with this sort of stuff. Let's add a dark background as well behind him, so that way the reflection stands out a little bit more. Let's see. So one of the things I worked on this last week was trying to refine the book system on the website, trying to get that to function a little bit nicer. And I noticed some problems with how mobile is set up on that website. And so this next week I might have to go back and do a couple of updates to it. So if people find issues, be sure to mention it, because I only see a limited perspective of how this stuff is kind of panning out. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And when it doesn't work, it doesn't necessarily mean that I get to see it. Sometimes it is only on certain platforms, and I can't really test out all of them as much as I would like. Well, this has not been very effective here. Let's go in a different sort of pattern here. I just don't want this to disappear. I want it to stand out enough to where you know that it's something that's not part of his clothing. Too messy. There was a person that I got to meet this last week who was he was telling a story. Oh wait, what? Too much light being shined on it from directly above, maybe cut it in half, like the shadows in his hand are covering up part of it. Let's see here. That's a good point. What if I show like where that cutoff point for the shadows are? Maybe put into the dark blues, dark purples here, just so we can help to make it stand out a little bit more. That's a good point. Maybe lighten up the area back here just a tad. Just an idea since the light is shining around top of the hand. Yes, that is a good point. So this has to extend a little bit out because it's the hilt of the sword. But by doing that, you're right. It does help out a lot. I'm still learning in this whole process, and things like that. It's good to be able to have some extra input, because otherwise I would have been fighting with that for much longer. Now, with that sort of concept, maybe we'll just darken it up like this. Add a little bit of orange right here instead. Hey, that almost looks exactly what I kind of wanted it to. Maybe have a little bit of the texture going into the shadow, and then have orange to help offset it a little bit. So now that way it's extended beyond, but there's more light along the top. Yeah, that works out. Maybe brighten up right down here so that way it stands out. Terrible drawing. I can notice small details like that, but my stick figures still have scoliosis. The art is hard to do, but I saw I keep hearing from folks that the hardest part about art is the fact that it takes practice. There are people all over this world that all it takes is practice to get to that point. Some of us will excel at one type of art, some of us another. For me, I'm terrible when it comes to sculpting, for example. I'm much better with a utensil in my fingers, like this. Sculpting, I'm terrible at. Music, I'm terrible at. Glass making, never tried. But I'm sure if I was to practice with it, I might become good with it. Same thing with other art forms. It's all whatever you practice at. Kind of wish that it was more common these days to encourage people to invest into one type of artwork or another. I had a professor who proved to me that knowing how to draw is part of communication. He came up to the class and he said, "Hey, folks, I want you to think about something. I want you to think about how relevant it is that the U.S. has such great geography and why it is involved with this part of history." And he looked at his map and he drew of the U.S. and he said, "I know it looks like a rectangle, but please just imagine that this is the U.S." And somebody got up and they just did this. That's all they did. That looks a lot more like the US than just a standard rectangle. It took so little effort to do. You don't have to get it perfect. I mean, sure, you might say, hey, we're going to add in the Great Lakes. You might want to say, hey, we're going to show a little bit more of the East Coast by adding in like Virginia and Delaware's separation there. You might want to show a little bit of Louisiana sticking out down here. Drawing is a part of communication. And there are a lot of people that don't learn the basics. And it is like a handicap for them. It's kind of like learning how to how to carry on small talk with somebody, but you never learned how to give a speech. Or maybe better yet, it's like learning how to draw, but never learning how to communicate. Every little bit of communication is useful to convey an idea. And our professor was a prime example of why art matters so much. Because he did several things like that, where he would say, hey, look at how important it is that things are this way. And he would have to do an illustration. Nowadays, you just throw up a PowerPoint, but if you're communicating to somebody and you can't do that, well, how do you, and you just have a pen in your hand, you can communicate very quickly. You don't have to search for images, you can just start sketching and call it good. So you gotta talk to crowds, no problem. No problem with public speaking at all. Hey, well done. I can shape metal. I can kind of sculpt with carving type activities, but the artistic talents lie mainly in shaping under the hammer. I don't know why it comes naturally to me. It just did. That's a hobby I would love to be able to have. I can write about it, like I did for the story. But I've never actually tried it. I would love to get a chance to try it. Maybe one day when I actually have like the flexibility and the means to give it a shot. I'd like to try all sorts of different types of art. I want to try glasswork. I want to try smithing metal. I want to try casting and using and like creating dyes as well, like dyes for metalwork. So many things I would love to try. We're going to be going on for another 40 minutes, then we'll be wrapping up the stream. It's a shorter stream today, but 40 minutes. I keep saying it, but I really need to get back into making edited videos for my first channel. It's been almost a year. Same here. I've been doing live streams so much that, well, part of it is because my videos get no views or next to no views. And so I'm like, I got to be able to justify the effort. And streaming for me is a little bit easier for that. I get a chance to convey deep ideas without the need for massive edits. But now I got like motivation. I can go in and try to do like a dramatic read of Pharaoh and the Smith and try and make that into maybe a video, maybe make it more interesting. I actually do have a lot of fun making videos, but man, it's so hard to put that stuff out there these days. I used to have thousands of people that would watch those videos. That disappeared last year. Well, correction, it was on a slow decline for a while, but it is fallen off a cliff. It's kind of interesting because like other people, they find immediate success. And there's the rest of us who kind of putt around trying to find ways to make it work. Some of us make things more difficult for ourselves than it needs to be. I'm one of those people. I intentionally take the long path kind of to see why people avoid it. Sometimes I find some neat things along the way. Sometimes it pans out, sometimes it doesn't. Would you be interested in joining a trend I'm trying to kick off? I'm very bad at trends, but what is this trend that you're referring to? My, there was a guy who came into the stream a couple of months back. He was like, "Oh, I got this like trendy thing that'll really work." And now this is a guy who had like a very different sort of idea, and it was it didn't pan out. But I could see what he was going for. My brain just couldn't figure out like how to pull it off. I am so bad at trying to do that sort of stuff. So I'm inexperienced. Even though I know like some of the basics. I helped some people on trends a couple of years back. It worked well for them. Never worked well for me, which is kind of interesting. A silly dance video with fake versus real. I'd have to see what it is that this would look like. I got no idea what that would look like. But of course, it's probably because of my inexperience. I do things that are so down to earth. Like, it's kind of funny. I am in technology all over the place. I've learned some really sophisticated techniques, some very complex concepts for like coding or animation or whatnot. But when it comes to some of the simpler stuff, I freeze. It's kind of weird. It's very weird, actually. Video pinned to my channel if you want to check it out. It explains it more. Indeed, I'll have to take a look at that. You can link it in the Discord. That works. You can send it to me. You can share it on your area. You can share it on my area, wherever you feel comfortable for it. It's not like I have like super strict rules for how I do communication. I'm, as you guys know, I'm down to earth. Very down to earth in many ways. If I had a choice, I would be literally building a cabin out of wood. I don't have that ability these days. It's a little hard with regulations to try and pull that sort of thing off. You have to have all the right paperwork nowadays to pull that sort of thing out. And the right amount of funds. With home prices though, that is the preferred method for me. I want to be able to actually figure out how to build my own place, rather than have to pay the outlandish prices that are out there. Before we go much further, I forgot. I've been meaning, I need to get the link operational, but because I have the Rumble link that just puts stuff out there, I need to get this out there. This right here is the free-to-read story that I did over this last year. It took quite a while to do, and I'm going to be doing a dramatic read of that sometime in the next few weeks. But it is a passion project of mine to try and do that, and I have another follow-up story. It's not in the same, it's not like a sequel or anything, but it's in the same sort of concept, and so that's going to be coming out probably next summer at the rate of how fast it takes for me to do some of that stuff. I might get it out faster now that I know the concept, the process of how to do this stuff from start to finish. Because that was the big reason why I wanted to stress with that. I could have probably gotten that out last December, but I got so frustrated with how bad it sounded. I was like, I had to go back and basically learn English again, just so I could get the right feel for that. And all that because I wanted to be able to write Milo better. I wanted to learn the process. Stand by just a second. All right, I'm back, folks. Sorry about that. All right. this up right here. Quick look. Just saw it, Wolfie. Very intriguing. I'll have to think about that. I have no dance skills, by the way. Just so you know. The only time I actually ever danced, I humiliated myself horribly. But I do know some interesting little gimmicks. Not dance related. It's related to something different. It's related to things that I believe are impossible to imitate. There is there's an interesting phenomenon that's taking place right now. And it has to do with. Actually, let me skip over that. Let me go to something different. There is a discussion that's been happening online. There are some people that their world has been completely shaken up by AI, and they have become very much adamantly against it. I would technically fall within that category. Thankfully, though, it's not affected me yet, like job-wise. But it almost did last year. It got a little too close for comfort. And I think that we've actually crossed a line. And it's kind of interesting what you mentioned in that video. The difference between what's reality and what's artificial. I'm going to predict within this next year, you're going to start seeing the AI stuff start to get locked down. This is my opinion based upon the observations that have been happening and the trends in human behavior. Defamation is going to get huge. As you know, I'm staunchly anti-AI. I even put it on my portfolio, even back before AI really became a thing, because I heard waves of like where it was coming from, where it was going, and I thought, oh, I'm going to take a stand while I can. And a lot of people didn't understand why I even put that out there. They're like, AI is not a thing. It's not going to be a thing. I'm like, okay. I kind of think that's coming our way. We got to be prepared. So I took a very strong stance against it because of my religious views on it, because of my ethical views on it. Now, there's a couple of things that people have been able to do with it that I think, oh, that's actually pretty clever. One of the things, though, that has been wildly successful is the amount of memes that you can make from it. Oh my goodness, the memes are hilarious. But they're also troubling, because like, ooh, you just took an image of somebody that, yeah, I agree with the joke, but it's like suddenly, ooh, the things that you could do with it. I'm trying to find like a... I would have to try and find like a creative way to hold true to my values on AI if I was to do something like that, to do a submission to that, because I don't want to empower AI. That's one of the things that, as you know, that's like one of my hard lines. I don't want to promote AI. I don't want to empower it. But there is another way you could probably go about doing it. About doing that sort of a concept. And it has something to do with like heart and soul. I can't quite figure out how to put into words just yet. That's why I have to think about it. I think there's actually a really interesting thing you could pull off. I'll troubleshoot. Like, where I would fall on that. There was actually a really great video that came out a while back. It was actually a dance video, and it was showing the difference between AI versus the animator. Oh, it was interesting. And it made me have so much respect for the animator. In that sense, I saw it as a good thing because it helped to show kind of that sense of humanity that was kind of a part of it. And it showed the reason why people's skills are so important. So in that sense, it was being used for good because it helped to point people back to the need to grow their skills. That's what I would want to... If I did a submission like that, that's what I would kind of want to lean into. I can only afford AI. I made my theme songs on my live channel because if I paid actual artists, it cost me hundreds, and most people would want some kind of royalties. That's one of the reasons why I went with very, very cheap offers to people. So I've done many logos, for example. I've done hundreds of logos. I lowball everything because I want there to be that sense of a human touch to it. And I want to make sure that it's done by people that, you know, care, that love their industry. And for me, to take a hit on logos is fine because it's not my main line of work. But I understand what you're talking about. It is very expensive. Partially because living has gotten very expensive. My goal is actually deeper than just the fun aspect. I want people to kind of realize the dangers of AI. A lot of people see my videos, and I have a 5-minute convo about how the videos are AI or not. Intriguing. Intriguing. That gives me another idea. It gives me a really interesting idea. How hard would that be to pull off? You know, well, there's one thing that scares the daylights out of me when it comes to AI. And this is the first thing that really petrified me. It was the realization about how reality will become so distorted that people start to embrace the artificial. I saw this happen to Japan when I was living over there. And it has gotten only worse since then. There would be an interesting sort of in-between where you could kind of help teach people about the warning, and then also at the same time showcase the need to kind of backtrack. I don't know how to pull it off just yet, but I have like this idea that's blossoming in the brain here. I'll have to get back to you on that. It's like the idea is almost there. I can almost grasp it, but not quite. But either way, I hope it, regardless of I hope it goes well, Wolfie, all the same with the concept. I know there are some folks out there kind of doing something similar, and so they're doing decent as far as I know. So hopefully that pans out. Got to run. I got lazy and forgot to do my rounds and show some love to other streams. Night. See you later, Half Pine. Have a pleasant evening, and see you next time, whenever that is. Drop my giveaway link before I head off. Yeah, feel free to do that. I'm not super strict about that sort of stuff. There are just not a ton of people come to these streams anyway, so it's not. So we'll at least be aware of it. But promise it wasn't AI generated. Why? Thank you for the clarification. Because yes, otherwise we'd have some fighting words. Yeah, right. Pull that up. Just have it on the side. Every set of eyeballs counts. Indeed. 6 days left. Well, thanks for stopping by all the way. Half Pint. We're going to be going on for another 10 minutes, so we're going to be wrapping it up for the day. Maybe something else will happen. No, actually won't happen later on tonight, but something will probably happen tomorrow. It won't be a standard stream, but there might be something. We'll see. Have a good rest of the stream, indeed. Need a refill on coffee. Indeed. Eel coffee. I always think of the Bugs Bunny episode. What was the character? It's the puma who's drinking coffee. I do the voice imitation of him, but my voice is right now thrashed by allergies. There was a man that I met years ago. I don't remember even where I met him, but he had an interesting story. He mentioned the importance of doing things the hard way. No, I'm not talking about the kind of like the books that came out or whatnot, where it talks about doing things the hard way. No, it's not referring to those sorts of things, but it is referring to stuff that's kind of in the similar sort of vein. This older fella that I met mentioned the importance of avoiding the trivial, of making things not necessarily hard on yourself, but choosing the more challenging path, because the more challenging path will teach you something that the easier path will not. It got me thinking about that stuff for quite a bit of my youth. And there's something important that I've learned along the way. The easier path makes us weak. This kind of came to me when this came to me when I would get sick. I historically avoid medication. I do not like medication. It messes with me. It hurts, you could say. No, it's not like I have any sort of medical problems back indeed. Not because I have any sort of medical issues with the medication. It's more like the idea of that. I don't like the idea of kind of caving to something that makes me weak. I want to try and recover and be made stronger through it. Well, this older fella told me about the importance of doing things the hard way. And one of those things is to rough things out. And in some ways that seems absolutely illogical. Why would you choose the difficult path when there is a much easier path that is available? Well, when I would travel cross country, this would actually come into play. When I grew up, I was actually very off-put by anything that was kind of dirty. Eating food with your hands, that's dirty. You should have a fork for that. Touching dirt or mud, no, absolutely not. That's dirty. It's filthy. Having to deal with grime, grease, absolutely not. That's filthy. And I had this mindset growing up. My parents even tried to break me of it because they're like, okay, this is unhealthy with how off-put you are by these things. But it was the words of this older fella that really tipped me off, like, no, there's a problem. And so when we would go traveling across country, we'd be in the wilderness. And I would be, I couldn't stand the bugs. I couldn't stand the sap. Yeah, sap was everywhere in those forests. It's something you don't think about until you're in the forest and you look at your hands, you're like, it's covered in sap. You're dealing with smoke that gets in your eyes or whatnot. There's hair everywhere. But you know what's interesting? If you embrace it and lean further and further into that, it becomes less off-putting. The thing that is tough becomes less of an issue until the point of where it is no longer crippling to you. You're able to press on. You're able to overcome. And that was the thing that I learned from this guy. I wish I could remember his name. I was a little too young for that to really stick, though. I had a horrible time memorizing names when I was younger. Horrible time. But he passed on that information, and I have been very grateful for it because it has come to play in my life many times where I feel that, oh, I'm taking I want to take the easy path, and then I step back and I'm like, no, I'm going to take the more difficult path. Not because I'm trying to show how great I am at it, but more like I know that it makes me stronger by taking the tougher path. One of those ways that it helped was in my field. I do not use presets, or at least I tried to avoid using presets as much as possible. Now, recently I've stopped doing that because I've officially hit a critical point where using a preset is no longer to overcome a hindrance. See, back in the day, a preset was designed to be a shortcut for your skill. And my skill needed to grow, it needed to be strained. So I had to learn along the way how to struggle and get better. And it kind of became possible because I had gotten used to digging my hands into the dirt, so to speak, and becoming familiar with it to the point of where it wasn't off-putting. And anything that was easier than that became a breeze. I no longer feared difficult challenges. I had the experience that was built up through taking the hard path. Woods, I feel comfortable in the woods. No, I do not feel safe in the woods. That is another problem, but that is because of the Bigfoot stories, as you guys will probably remember. But I don't feel off-put by it. If I had to be in the woods, I would be fine. Put me in the desert, now that's a different story entirely. I would not fare well in the desert. But the woods, be perfectly fine. But that didn't come naturally. It came over time. That came through strain. That came through struggle. And after all that, it finally became familiar. And in that familiarity with it, I lost my fear of it. Now, sometimes you can become too familiar with something, and you can kind of feel the punishment of that. That's also a problem that can happen. But when it comes to taking the more difficult path just so you can grow, there's goodness in that. And I'm a big supporter of that sort of concept. Walt Disney was somebody like that as well. He told his people to do things because it was difficult and because their skills would grow, and then they would be able to pull off really big stuff later on. Really big projects. And sometimes he wouldn't even tell people what they were gunning for. He'd just be like, hey, we got a project, let's work on it. And then they would do something really artistic and beautiful, and they're like, well, okay, great, we learned like how fat rolls are supposed to happen on somebody, or we learned how how to light up a spooky set with lights. How is this relevant to what we're working on? And then the next movie, it would come into play, and the test, the experience, the struggle would pay off. How many times do we say, I'm going to do this because this is hard, and I want to learn from it? How many times do we just say, yeah, I want to do it just because I don't know how to do it, and I want to learn. I want to grow. I don't want the shortcut. I want to become better. Not enough. I can definitely say that. There's not enough people in our culture that think that way. Although it used to be very common. Very common. Maybe it will start becoming more common again. Maybe the tides are changing and things will start to take that route. Or maybe not. There's enough evidence that it could end up in kind of both situations. By the way, one of those things that was not easy for me to do was it was to act publicly. It may sound a little strange to say that. It's like, well, what relevance is that? When I was at college, I didn't want to do any sort of acting. And I cringed at that sort of stuff. I would mock it. Are you done with Alaska Jeff channel? Not really. It just has been put on hold. Everything's been about art as of late because the game streams just weren't panning out like they used to, and the discussion streams kind of dried up over a year ago. Almost 2 years ago, actually, come to think of it. It's not gone entirely. I want to bring it back, but it just has to be with the right stuff. Maybe when Castercraft is like nice and solid with some of the stuff that's coming out, then I can start to lean back into it and come out with some of the other ideas that I want to experiment with. How you doing, Schwarz Bricks? What has been up with you? Unfortunately, though, we are at the end for the stream for today. I need to run, but it has been, I just want to leave you with this. Think about the challenges in your life. How many of them are really that difficult versus how many of them just need a little bit of patience to overcome and to grow, to become better at it. By the way, the reason why I started thinking about this last week, because I met a student who's having to deal with this. He's struggling with this question. And he's like, what's the point? Why take the harder path if there's so many shortcuts nowadays? His friend was trying to reason with him, trying to tell him all the reasons that he need to challenge himself. He's going to have to deal with that over this year. I hope he makes a good decision, because far too often we take shortcuts only to be disappointed, only to find out that the shortcut really wasn't as promising as we thought it was. But struggle always pays off. Maybe not the way that we want it to, but it always pays off by making us stronger. Well, we got the jacket done. We got the overall of this part completed. This is the most complex part of this fire sequence, and so I expected it would take multiple days to get this all squared away. Next week, we're going to be doing another daytime stream. Throughout this next week, we're also going to be doing some things that may be a little bit earlier. I have to get my new setup figured out. It's a temp setup as I try to get some things squared away for the formatting. I won't dwell too much on that stuff. We need to, unfortunately, wrap it up there. All right, let me see if there's any place we can raid on the Rumble side. By the way, just a reminder, this is now the third week, I think, since we stopped streaming on Twitch. It has been interesting to kind of see how things have shaped up. Hopefully, find a new rhythm moving forward. All right, let's see here. Who is available? Oh, darn, the guy that was going to raid is just gone offline. I guess we could go over to Area 52. No one's doing art, which is really frustrating. Nobody's doing art. Oh, wait. Nope. I have somebody that we can go and raid. Okay, here we go. All right. So, we want to raid. Have a very pleasant evening and morning, everybody. Be civil to one another. And we will see you next time, whenever that is. Until then, folks, have a very pleasant evening.